Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Shaquelle Ballou, and I'm actually a program analyst on the Women's and Infant Health team here, but I'm happy to be moderating this session titled Practicing and Reimagining Our Work Through Hiring, Racial Justice, and Centering Motherhood. If you're able, if you have some questions, feel free to put them in chat here in Zoom. Otherwise, I will read aloud the questions that were added in the questions tab on the conference platform. But before we jump into questions, we have two of our speakers here, Andrea Cornell and Janina Ong. So I'm going to pass it over to you two to introduce yourselves.
Hi there, so Andrea Cornell, Associate Director for Women's Infant Health at AMCHP. You're seeing my face now. My camera was not working the day of the recording, which is why it was the mystical voice in the background. But very happy to be with you all here today.
Hi, I'm Janina. I am a program analyst at AMCHP. I use she, her pronouns, and yeah.
And there was a third speaker, Christina Wendt, who double booked here with another session, but lovely Women's and Infant Health team member. And so we'll get started with questions here. I will post it in the chat and read it aloud. And it's bit of a long one, so give me a second here. But how did you get the larger organization to buy into some of the principles and practices you are embracing? For instance, quality over quantity, self-care, building trusting or respectful relationships within your team. In the comment, I feel like a lot of organizations support these principles in theory, but not in practice. Did that happen to you? And if so, how are you able to maintain the practices over time?
So I can start. I'll start answering, but I love if Janina wants to chime in, and Shaq as our moderator, you also are welcome to chime in, as well as Stacy Tuck, our director of programs, who's also in the space. Just because this is a unique workshop or session in that it's talking kind of about a team and team dynamics instead of the body of work, and all of these individuals are interacting and engaging in it. So I'll say sort of two sides of this. So the first one is I have not encountered resistance within AMCHP in any way to these principles and practices that the Women's Infant Health team has embarked on. I have not received resistance in how our team chooses to operate. That being said, though, we did not ask permission. I did not ask permission. We did not ask permission. I will say, in some of the technical assistance and support that our team has provided to other organizations about what does it mean to support an equity culture, and specifically a race equity culture within a team or an organization, there's a lot of concern and time spent thinking about the repercussions of this, or the process of getting permission. And I will say, at times I myself have felt challenged, not our team challenged, but have asked myself, do I need to ask permission for this, or do I need to be adhering to some articulated or written standard process at AMCHP? Does AMCHP need a standard process for this that I need to adhere to? And overall, it's just so evident that the people on our team and the team's work will be so much better served by being a relationship-based team, by centering equity in all that we do, that it's not something that feels like permission is needed. And we've just felt so many benefits to just going ahead. And I will say, it's not really one of those situations of ask for permission or beg for forgiveness. We think we've ever really been in a situation where we've had to beg for forgiveness at all. And I think it's too because the body of work that has bloomed from the tremendous team members really speaks for itself, honestly. So I really appreciate the question. I love the question because it's very real. I'll say that we have the idea of like just acting though is something that we often will encourage. Just do the change, create the change, take action, because permission often isn't as needed as we think it is. And we have, I won't say, to the second part of the question, maintaining the practices over time, I will say that it is something that we as a team try to just continually practice. I think we as individuals find ourselves sometimes pulling back towards like that, I don't know, that white supremacy equilibrium, like that white dominated patriarchal way of doing work. You can find yourself when you get really busy, like almost like being pulled in a direction of I have to finish this by this particular time, or oh, that's my day off, but I can just do this one call, it's not that big of a deal. Or but what I appreciate about our team, since we've been living the culture, we protect each other from that in some ways. I don't want to this is where I really want Shaq and Janina and Stacy to say, Andrea, you're overselling this, because if I am, they know that they can check me on that. But I think we are really good at saying, you know, I appreciate what you're trying to do there, but this will be fine without you in this meeting. We can, you need, if this day or this week has been hard for your heart, we are better served by you resting right now and you coming back to us in a few hours or a few days, than to have you push through something and feel discomfort of any sort pushing through it. So that's, I will say it's hard not personally, individually, to be pulled towards that equilibrium, but I think we're able to check each other in that. But Janina or Shaq or Stacy, tell me otherwise.
I mean, I think Andrea shares this in the presentation, that this is really like a team culture. And I'm not sure, you know, if that extends to all of AMCHP, but I think that as a team member, I have felt very comfortable being who I am and bringing my whole self. And I know that lots of people are like, well, you shouldn't have to bring your whole self to work because, you know, that's not necessary, right? They're only paying you for your professional self. But I think that when you talk about professional selves, you fall into this trap of like corporate capitalist culture and like this white supremacist, like patriarchal norms that Andrew was talking about. And I think that that's actually really dangerous, right? I think the whole thing about my section is that we should value the work behind the scenes. And, you know, I am doing this work, you know, not only to make a living, but also because I want to make a difference in this space of maternal and child health. But at the same time, I'm a mother, you know, like I am a single mother. And I need to make sure that I'm in a space that like values that and like sees that as, you know, an asset for the team and the work that we're doing. And I think Andrea really helps me do that. And the team as well, because like, I remember always like asking for permission at the beginning, like, can I bring Cato to these meetings? Like, you know, is it okay if I don't make this meeting because he's having a like day, you know, like we need to go to the park and like relax. Like, I remember asking for permission so many times and like, they were like, oh, you don't need to ask for permission for that. Just like say that, you know, if Cato's not having a good day or you need to take him to physical therapy during that time, it's not a big deal. And I really wish that like, honestly, it's gonna make me kind of tear up because I really wish that more spaces were like this, because as a mom, it's so hard. And I remember being in other spaces, like even when I did my grad program in women's and gender studies, I was like, I guess I should hide the fact that I'm a mom and not let people know, because like, I just felt so scared of like the judgments about like, oh, she's not going to get her work in on time because she's like caring for her child. Yeah, I'm going to care for my child when I need to, but I'm also going to, you know, do what I need to get done so that, you know, the work can progress for my team. So like, why is it associated that just because I'm providing care work that like I will not follow through on the responsibilities that I have agreed to, you know, and like I've committed to. So I think it's funny when we frame motherhood as like a deficit, when, you know, in reality, it actually really creates priorities for you. And then you can better understand like what your plate looks like instead of feeding into this corporate culture where you need to do as much as you can to prove that you're worthy and to get the dollar amount that you need to. Exactly as like Andrea was saying, right? Like then we can actually say like, hey, this is what my plate looks like. And I know that I can do a good job of these things, like whether that's 5 or 10 things, you know, that depends on the person. So like, I know that I'll do a good job of like the 5 things that I have on my plate because I know that there is space being made for my personal life and my needs and my son's needs, right? I think that that's really important.
So great to hear the reflections from my teammates. It's at work, I see them every day, just about every day, and work with them every day. It's just nice to hear their reflections in this space. And so I'll encourage, you can hear my furry team member in the background. He's barking because I've been ignoring him all day, so apologies for that. But if you have other questions, please continue to add them in the chat. I will go ahead and read a question aloud that Stacy added. How would you like to see the concepts around motherhood, maternal health, and household management converted into equitable policies within the workforce and healthcare?
I mean, I can go first and then Andrea, you can add on to it. But I think the number one thing is I would like for us to stop thinking about MCH as this like niche field that only happens like if a woman or birthing person gives birth, right? Like, I think the fact that we all come from the body of another person means that this is not just a family health issue. It's also a community health issue that should be understood at like a national population level, right? Like everybody is coming from somebody else's body. You know, maybe at some point we won't come from other people's bodies, but I don't think that that's happening anytime soon. So I think the number one thing is that we need to make sure that, you know, this space is funded as such, right? Like there's enough money going to these things, right? So everybody should have not only a safe and like, you know, respectable birth, but one that actually like feels good to them and respects their cultures and their practices. So I think, you know, putting money towards that, not just saying like, oh, we want these women to come out, women and birthing people to come out alive from these experiences. I think that that's a really low bar, right? I think that it's also really important to think about this in terms of care work, right? What will this person need, you know, throughout their lifetime as they provide care to a child who, you know, goes from a baby to an adolescent to a teenager to an adult, like, and on top of that, if like that child has a disability or was born prematurely, what kinds of supports would they need, right? So I think it's way beyond seeing it at this like mother-child dyad level, and understanding it as something that is a community issue, right? Because I think it affects so many aspects of life, right? So I think, for instance, you know, in the prematurity space, like children who are born premature often have you know, lower educational outcomes as well, right? Like that affects schooling, that affects their careers in the future, right? So I think, you know, investing in MCH is actually safeguarding generations of our families and communities. So I think that that's really important. I mean, I think I can go into these policies within the workforce and healthcare, but I think I'll pass to Andrea first. But I think that money, we really need to fund this.
I just often when I'm in spaces with my team members, I have to just sort of let their words hang because I think the first time, Janina, when we first had this conversation about motherhood, I how we could integrate it into our team. I told her, you just blew my mind, and I was speechless. I wasn't really sure where to go, and so I learned something from my team, from these conversations, from individuals. Constantly, I'm overwhelmed by how I get to learn from their brilliance every day. The only thing I would add, or maybe a tangent, because I don't think I can add to the wonderful comments that Janina just made, so much as maybe just, you know, complimented on the side. I think often, when I was listening to the incredible Jenny Joseph, who has invested some time, you know, with our team in various ways over the years. When I was hearing her speak, you know, I was today during the plenary, I was just sitting and just how, you know, I think I've said common sense childbirth so many times, common sense childbirth, that the fact that I was saying the word common sense in some ways wasn't hanging with me. And it was today during the plenary where I was just, it's common sense. It's common sense. And and the model JJ Way, the perinatal safe spots, all of it, you know, is about centering a whole person, their whole family, not divorcing a person from their family, from their experience, from their community, and just valuing and loving and holding that so close and caring for it so delicately and lovingly and strongly and in all ways. And I just, when I think about what I don't mean to in any way draw a parallel between her tremendous work and our team, but at the same time, I'm finding inspiration in her words of really the importance and the urgency of centering whole people always, of relationships and love, and the power of not divorcing a person from who they are, from their experience, from their context, from those that love them and surround them. And I think that's, you know, when we think about this concepts of motherhood, about home, about community, I think that's where some of just the power and love, I'm just very inspired by that power and love. And I think we can only see tremendous power and love that can come out of redesigning what we think of, how we work together, of getting rid of this concept of professionalism, of just being together in spaces to do and create incredible things. And so I'm just grateful that I am in a space on the Women's and Health team where I get to do that with incredible people, and that we are letting each other into our lives and contexts, which I think is which is part of what's forming the relationships and why I care about them. We care about each other, I think, so much. So I don't think I answered your question, Stacy, but I loved it. And like I said, it was a tangent off of Janina's tremendous and much more practiced, thoughtful expertise. But I loved it. It's a really important question.
I can also put in a plug for a specific policy that they're trying to make happen in California, which is the 4-day work week. And I know that everybody's like, what? Like a 4-day work week? Like, how would you get work done? But I think when you think about it, like, oh, you would have 3 days to spend with your family, to do all the care work that you need, you know, to take care of your household and stuff like that. That makes me feel really good. Like, I think there's this kind of understanding that you need to have a 40-hour work week to get things done. And that's not actually true, because, you know, not saying that people don't do work the whole 8 hours, but your attention span, you know, literally does not maintain itself over the whole 8 hours. So by the end of the day, you're less efficient than you would be at the start of the day.
Thank you for those comments, Andrea and Gina. Oh, that is great, Michonne.
Yay!
Michonne's comment that her organization in New Orleans, Institute of Women in Ethnic Studies, switched to a 4-day work week. Congratulations to you all. But I would encourage you in the last about 4 minutes that we have together, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to put them in chat or come off mute and share. I do want to lift up a comment that was left on the conference platform, a question about presentation slides. We recognize that they were not linked with the presentation, so we'll make sure that we get in touch with our conference managers to get those linked, so you can revisit the conference platform and download the slides. I know a couple of really awesome resources were referenced during the presentation that you all are interested in, so we'll be sure that those are linked there. So I'll pause here for just a few moments if there are any last thoughts, comments, or questions.
I actually have a quick comment. It's just a plug for the latest MCH Bridges podcast that's about combating burnout. And there's a whole segment in there that reminds me a lot of what Janina was talking about and what Mishan alluded to, just about the 4-day work week. And it talks about the importance of taking rest and not waiting to rest until after you've checked everything off your to-do list or whatever, but just about the mindset that you are able to take rest actively whenever you need it. So I just wanted to mention that, and just to thank all of you for this amazing session. The Women and Infant Health team is really like a leader among the AMCHP portfolio in terms of just how to do this like wonderful relational work. Like all of us, I think we all embody those things, but we do kind of look to you all for leadership in that area, because you just do it so amazingly, wonderfully well. And it's just so great working with all of you. So I'll be quiet in case somebody else wants to say something.
I think the only thing I can add is that like I feel so relieved so many times that like I'm on the team that I am, because it's just, you know, they really understand. I remember I've only done this once, I promise. But like even me saying that like goes to show the like corporate mindset is very ingrained in me. Like I overslept a meeting once because I'm on the Pacific Coast and everybody else is on the East Coast, and I usually try to match their time. And one time I overslept a meeting, and then I got like 5 messages, hey, are you coming to the meeting? And then when I woke up, I was like, oh, we had a late night. Like my son and I had a late night. But like I was waking up the whole night. Like I did not realize like that I had overslept this meeting. And honestly, Andrea's response to it was like the kindest, like most caring response. She was just like, if your body needs sleep, then, you know, you did what you needed to do for that. I mean, that being said, there were other team members at the meeting, so I don't think I was necessary, but it was just so like, oh, thank goodness. Like in any other place, like I was already having like a heart attack about it, but like in any other place, like I think I would have been scared to get fired or like have disciplinary action. But like really, like I was having a terrible night where my son was like waking up every 30 minutes, you know? So I think Andrea was right. And I so appreciate that.
And I think that's a great place to close. We are just about out of time, but thank you all for joining us for the session. Thank you, Andrea and Janina, for your question or your answers and the presentation, and which Christina was here to join us. But thank you all again for joining for a Q&A session again. Check back on the conference platform in just a few for the presentation slides. Thank you for joining us for day 1 of the AMCHP conference. It was so great to have all of you. And I will just add a quick plug for a couple more events for the rest of this evening. If you are able to join, there's a film night, Global Voices, led by AMCHP's Global Health Work Group, and that begins at 7 p.m. Eastern if you are interested. So I hope that the rest of you have a great evening or afternoon, wherever you are joining from. Be well, stay safe, and stay cool, as it's for sure warming up on the East Coast. So thank you all.
Same here. Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.